Hello and welcome in, Chicago. It's Monday night. That means it's time for Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Lots to go through tonight. The Bears survived yesterday's game against Houston and improved to 2-1 on the young season. Had we mentioned before the season that the Bears would be 2-1 at this point, I think a lot of people would be excited. Are we excited after yesterday's game, though? We'll dive in and discuss that. Elsewhere on the docket tonight, the Chicago White Sox had probably the worst week last week that anybody has had in a long time. They have been eliminated from postseason contention. We will lament what has been a disastrous 2022 season on the South Side. And then finally, we'll finish on a high. The Fighting Illini, University of Illinois, is 3-1 on the season after an obliteration of Chattanooga last week, 31-0. Are they for real? We will discuss all that plus more on this week's edition of Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle it on up, everybody. Let's have some fun. And hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. So glad to be with you here tonight, spending some time out of the week talking, of course, Bears, but we're going to be spinning our way all around the Chicago and Illinois sports landscape tonight. Before we get too far into it, of course, we do need to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Here at IE Sports Radio, of course, we've been around now for just over 8 years, bringing you all kinds of excellent dedicated content from shows dedicated to specific regions like this show to other shows dedicated to specific sports like Fast Break on Sunday nights or The Neutral Zone on Tuesday nights, or some shows or of course Set Point with Taryn Rodriguez. We have got you covered here at IE Sports Radio. All the while, we have continued to be by the fans, for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on every one of our shows. Higher tiers also include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And I want to acknowledge our Patreon supporters right now: Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you very much for your support. It allows us to do things like have live radio calls of some different sporting events. We've partnered with our sister station, USRN. Seth Eves right now is getting ready to handle the call for kickoff between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. So there will definitely be some checking in on Seth and his call tonight, as that's going to be some preview, some scouting for the Bears' next opponent, but we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit there. Before we talk about next week's matchup, got to talk about yesterday's game. And, of course, if you are listening live tonight on Spreaker, you can hop on into the chat room where you will find Taryn Rodriguez. Good evening, Taryn. How you doing, my man? and we can interact that way. Or if you just want to sit back and listen to me, or if you're listening later on as a podcast, whether it be on Spreaker or Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the other ways, thank you for making this part of your weekly routine. I really do appreciate that. Ways you could follow along with this show: we are on Twitter at IESRC. IE Sports Radio, of course, is at IE Sports Radio. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch. Just search IE Sports Radio. I am at Adam_Karnick on Twitter. So the game yesterday, the Bears win. That's the big thing. That's the important thing. No doubt about it. No question about it. That's the big takeaway. Bears win. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise of that fact. That is the big takeaway. But that was a rough one, wasn't it? That was a tough one to sit through. Not the cleanest of games. Not a lot of penalties or sloppiness. Just mistakes on both sides. Houston, my goodness, they cannot tackle. Holy cow, the Texans cannot tackle. That's surprising to see from a Lovie Smith coached team, that just how badly the Texans struggled to bring down ball carriers. I counted at least 4 times where the Bears had the ball in the backfield or near the line of scrimmage and were able to wiggle out of a tackle just because a Texan player read everything right, read the play properly and correctly, just couldn't execute the tackle and get the ball carrier down. The Bears, 6 penalties on the game. Not a ton of yardage, though. It was only about 32 yards in penalties. You can live with that. Small penalties, little things. The Texans, a few penalties. The good news for the Bears, the ground game. When David Montgomery went down in the first quarter, of course you're thinking, oh no, oh boy, we've seen this before. He's been hurt. He was hurt last year for a little bit. Now he's hurt again this year. You hope it's not anything too serious. It's not an ACL. It's not a knee. Coach Eberflus did clarify today that it is an ankle injury that Montgomery is dealing with. Hopefully, it will not be anything too serious, and he'll be able to participate soon. But Khalil Herbert took advantage of the opportunity afforded him. 157 yards rushing on the day, a pair of touchdowns. The only Bear to reach the end zone yesterday afternoon was Khalil Herbert. He had himself a heck of a day. And I've said, I don't know if I've said it on this show. I know I've said it when talking with buddies of mine. I would be just fine with the Bears keeping David Montgomery. I would also be fine with the Bears moving on from Montgomery and keeping Khalil Herbert and just moving Herbert into the featured back role. He looked excellent yesterday in that role, looked very comfortable, very competent. Obviously, it helps that the Texans struggle to stop the run, but Herbert made some excellent runs, showed good vision, showed power, determination, all the things you want to see from your lead running back were right there on display with Khalil Herbert. Other good takeaways from yesterday, Roquan Smith. Oh boy, Roquan Smith. Look at the week he had for himself, where this time a week ago we were talking about how mightily he struggled in the Packers game, where he was struggling to bring runners down. He was getting soaked up into blocks and not really executing out there, and wondering what the future for Roquan Smith might be. And then he turns around and 16 tackles, a couple tackles for loss, and then the game-winning interception. Let's call it what it was. That's what allowed the Bears at the very end to be in position for Cairo Santos to make the chip shot field goal and win the game. Roquan Smith had himself an amazing performance out there yesterday. Really established himself, re-established himself as, he's still a talented player and just getting used to this defense, getting used to this scheme. But the skill is there. If you let him loose, he can operate and he can function well in this defense. Some other things that I took away from yesterday that I liked. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker both had their moments yesterday. No Jalen Johnson because of an injury he had sustained during practice last week. Kendall Vildor got picked on a lot. Not a surprise there. That's the easy weak link target to go on. Vildor made some plays for himself, but overall, Kendall Vildor, he's the guy that offenses are going to pick on and they're going to target. But Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, I thought, rebounded nicely. Obviously it helps that you're no longer facing Aaron Rodgers. You're now facing Davis Mills. You're no longer, you're not going up against a future Hall of Fame quarterback is going to make your rookie secondary look a lot better. But I thought they both had very solid games. Brisker, for a safety, Brisker is very comfortable in coverage. If he can continue to blossom like that, along with Gordon, and obviously Jalen Johnson continuing to be an elite level corner for the Bears. The Bears have the makings of a potentially great secondary, which anymore in the modern NFL, that's what you need in order to be great in the NFL, is you need to have a strong secondary. I don't want to get too off topic, but suffice to say that the data would indicate anymore that instead of the pass rush helping out the secondary, your secondary anymore helps out your pass rush. And if the Bears can be strong in their back four or back five, if they can be strong there, that'll really help the guys up front. Robert Quinn, Tevis Gibson, Dominique Robinson, those kinds of players up front. Now for the bad. We've got to discuss it. We've got to talk about it. Justin Fields. Oof. That was rough. That was almost certainly his worst performance in the NFL. It was his lowest quarterback rating of his career. 27.7 quarterback rating. Failed to complete 50% of his passes. Didn't throw a touchdown. Threw a pair of interceptions, and both of them were bad for different reasons. One was bad because he identified the right target, just didn't follow through on his throw, so the ball sailed on him and it goes into the safety's arms. The second one, he just flat out made the wrong read. He tried to force the ball into Darnell Mooney, who was triple covered on the play, and it had no chance. It had no hope. So you look at the final numbers for Fields, 8 of 17 for 106 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 27.7. And every time he dropped back to pass, the feeling and the feeling that I'm getting right now when the Bears are dropping back to pass is you're just hoping to survive. You're just hoping that whatever bad thing is about to happen, it's not catastrophic. And that's not good. That's not where you want your passing game to be. We did see a little bit of Darnell Mooney. We saw a little bit of Cole Kmet. They both made a couple of catches. Khalil Herbert made a couple of catches. Then Equiminius St. Brown and Byron Pringle were the only other guys with catches on the game. And it's interesting. A lot has been made the last couple of weeks, especially after the Packers game. A lot was made about the Bears needing to open up the passing game a little bit more. And I have a couple of thoughts on that. One, the running game is working. It's obviously working incredibly well. 281 yards yesterday. That was the most rushing yards the Bears have had in a single game in almost 40 years. You have to go back to 1984 for the last time the Bears put up 280 yards rushing. It was 1984 against the Cowboys. They put up 283 yards. Yesterday was 281. And that's without David Montgomery. You know, Montgomery only contributed 11 yards of that. You had 157 from Herbert, 47 from Fields, 43 from EQ, and you had 23 from Travis Ebner. So I understand why they're wanting to stick with the running game. It's working. It's producing. It's having terrific results. And they averaged 7 yards a carry yesterday. As a team for the season, let me see if I can pull up the stats here real quickly. Rushing yards as a team, they're averaging almost 5.5 yards a carry as a team right now. 560 yards rushing already as a team, compared to just 297 throwing in 3 games. They're not even averaging 100 yards throwing a game. You know, Justin Fields, 297, 51 of that was the touchdown pass to Petrie in the first game. You take that out of the equation, they only have 246 yards throwing in 3 games. That's 81 yards a game. Yuck. That's terrible. That's brutal. That is absolutely brutal right now for the Bears passing attack. So how do we improve it? What do we do? I do want to address too, somebody had thrown out in one of the groups I'm in that he was asking, okay, Fields fans, how can you possibly defend this? How can you possibly still have faith in this kid? And I, of course, am a huge Justin Fields fan. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to back away from that, even after yesterday. I still am a fan of the kid. I still have high hopes for him. Obviously, yesterday was terrible. There's no escaping that. There's no getting around that. Yesterday was brutal for Justin Fields. You cannot have games like that. And to make it worse, it was against Houston. You know, it's one thing, the first game of the season, all right, well, that was against San Francisco, and it was the monsoon, and nobody could have been expected to have any success throwing the ball in that. That was just terrible. And then the second game, it's the Packers, it's that strong defense, the offensive line isn't very good at pass blocking. They were running the ball so well, you know, all those kinds of built-in things right there with it. But then yesterday happens. You know, the thinking was kind of just wait till the quality of opponent dips a little bit here. Wait till, you know, they faced arguably their toughest 2 defenses right out of the gate. They've got Houston in week 3. Now we can turn the page, and now things will start to improve. And then Fields has what is easily his worst game of the 3. And of his 13 career games, that might be the worst one. That one and his very first start in Cleveland are probably, 1 and 2 in some combination. Put them in either order. So there's no defending yesterday specifically. But here's what I will say. It's only 13 starts. It's not even one complete season yet. I have heard multiple smart NFL people say that you need at least 2 seasons, maybe even a little more. The number 30 gets brought up a lot. You need at least 30 starts to really evaluate and really get a feel for any one quarterback. Fields hasn't even had one yet. Because for various and sundry reasons, he only had 10 starts a season ago. And we're only 3 games into this season. So he's only got 13 starts. It's too early to abandon the kid entirely. Be patient. Give it time. That's not to say they don't need to work on some things. I'd like to see from the offense. I'd like to see Luke Getsy. It's clear that right now they have established an identity as a running team. That the running game is working, and it's working well. Regardless of who's running with the ball, they're having success, whether it be Montgomery or Herbert or Fields scrambling with it. They're having success running the football. Go with that. Lean into that. Let that be your offensive identity. But you need to establish a passing identity. You need to establish some kind of go-to play or go-to route or something specifically for the passing game that you can start to feel good about, feel comfortable with when you're throwing the ball. Personally, I would like to see them start to incorporate some more slant routes into the offense. Get the ball out of Fields' hands quickly. Have it be an easy, simple, throw it to a man coming open over the middle. Just a quick 3 or 4 yards, and then let him try to do something with his legs. That will also help with Fields wanting to look for the big play anytime he's throwing the ball. I don't want to necessarily take that away from him. I like that he wants to look for the touchdown on every passing play, but I want him to get into a rhythm. It feels like he has yet to get into a rhythm in any of these first 3 games. Now they've got an opportunity now with the Giants. The Giants are going to be on a short week. They're playing right now tonight. The Giants will be on a short week. They're certainly they're a surprise team right now. Even if they lose tonight, they'll be 2. They'll either be 2-1 or 3-0 going to the game next week. I don't think anybody saw Bears Giants week 4 that they'd have a minimum of 4 wins combined between the two of them. But you've got a great test coming up for the Bears here over the next month. They play 5 games in October. 4 of them are on the road, starting with this Sunday in New York. They're at the Meadowlands against the Giants. Then they're at the Vikings, who will be coming off of a game in London. I don't know why they're not getting a bye week after that. Then it's the short week, turn around and host Washington on Thursday night. Then they're at the Patriots on Monday night, and then at Dallas on October 30th. 4 road games in the month of October. We're going to learn a lot about the Bears coming up in this next month. I'd like to see the Bears be able to establish a little bit of a rhythm and just an identity for their passing attack. That's what I hope to see out of them. And then, of course, if they're able to win a couple of the games, that'd just be icing on the cake. All right. We are due for our first break of the night. We are going to switch gears and talk about what is probably the most disappointing team, certainly of the year, certainly of their sport, and possibly one of the most disappointing teams in Chicago professional sports of the last 10 years. We will all that on the other side of a break. This is Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Motorsports takes many form, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is. From NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between, IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out The Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Notorious Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Rate, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Did all Bears there in our first segment. Now we're going to transition over and talk some baseball here in this second segment. So, of course, the White Sox had probably their worst week. The worst week you could possibly have a week ago. When we were talking this time last week, we were discussing the importance of the 3-game series they had coming up with Cleveland, that they had it all lined up. They had Cease, Lynn, Cueto, and it was, you've got to have all three of these because then you're just a game back of Cleveland, and you're right there. You just need a little bit of help, and you're right there in the division race. Well, not only did they not win the series, they were swept. And then to follow that up, the Detroit Tigers came into town, and the Sox got swept again. It was the first time in darn near in something close to 35 years that the Sox had a 6-game homestand and they failed to win a game. They are now eliminated. They are eliminated from postseason contention. This has got to be just one of the worst seasons you could have from a professional sports team. This was, the Sox are in their competitive window. This was supposed to be, all right, how do we get past Houston? How do the Sox figure out how to take the pennant and then compete with somebody like the Dodgers in the World Series? And they just never got going this season. And as soon as they dropped that first one in extra innings last Tuesday night, you could just see it right away the next night. The energy was gone. They were just spent. Yoan Moncada the next night had multiple mental lapses in the early innings that led to runs. And they just looked deflated and defeated all the way around as a team. There's a lot of things that we can point to, and they're technically still alive in the wild card race, but let's face it, they're 7.5 games back. They're 8 back in the loss column, and there's I'm trying to do the math here, 9 games left to play. You know, their margin for error is gone. they'd need to win out and then have basically everything go their way. You know, it's wild card was never in the conversation for this season, nor should it have been. The American League Central is the weak division in baseball. And you look at it overall, the Guardians have clinched it at 86 and 67. 86 wins was enough to take the American League Central. No other division is that low. You know, you've got the next closest right now, the Cardinals in the National League Central. They're 89 and 65, but they still haven't clinched. You know, they still have work to do in order to win their division. They probably will, and they're 6.5 up on Milwaukee. It's just a matter of time. But this season was supposed to be all about getting through the regular season healthy and then doing whatever it was you had to do, that when October rolled around and you were squaring off against teams like Houston or the Yankees, that you were going to be prepared to be competitive in those series. And instead, they never got on track. They never got rolling. They never got to that point. And there's different things that we can point to and we'll look to as we get away from it a little bit, as we distance ourselves a little bit. One is obviously a lack of power, a huge lack of power as a team. I heard it put so eloquently and perfectly earlier today. On the north side of town, Patrick Wisdom, he is considered, some people have used the term a 4A prospect, meaning that he's better than a AAA player, but he's not really quite a big league prospect or star. He's a guy that, okay, you could use on the big league club, but he's not necessarily going to be a mainstay on your team. He's got 25 home runs. The current leader on the White Sox is Andrew Vaughn with 17. You know, so power numbers overall are a huge problem for the Sox. They've only hit 144 home runs as a team this season. Tony La Russa's leadership and management, they have made it official he will not manage the rest of this season, for what it's worth. I sincerely hope that he has managed his last game with the White Sox. It was a mistake. It was a mistake the minute they hired him, and to bring him back for a third year would just be exacerbating the problem. You would be just continuing to ruin the development of these young players. Rick Hahn's decision, and we'll probably learn some things about the way this roster was constructed as we get a little further away from it. But the things that were problems with the team at the end of 2021 are still problems on the roster right now. You know, you have a problem playing defense. You have too many designated hitters on the team. You don't have consistent outfield play. Second base is a giant gaping hole for the White Sox. The way Rick Hahn has built the team is problematic. The way the team is executed has been problematic. Let's not beat around the bush there. The way the team has played has been very bad this year. Just not good. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason on the South Side as they sit here today. They've got the day off, 76 and 77, a game under 500 with 9 games to go. And they've got the Twins, the Padres, and the Twins to finish out the year. Win whatever you can, get whatever you can. It no longer means anything for the Sox. It's a huge disappointment. One thing it does, interestingly enough, is it makes me appreciate what the Cubs did in 2016 all that much more. I remember going through the 2016 season with the Cubs. Looking back at it now, I guess one way you could describe it would be arrogant. I never felt haughty about it when I was watching the Cubs, but there was just an assumption that, well, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. Yeah, they're going to win the Central. Yeah, they're going to make a run. Because it was just, you could feel it from opening day on with the Cubs in 2016 that was going to be a special year. And now here we are 6 years later with the White Sox and some very similar expectations heading into this season that, hey, it's just take it for granted. They're going to win the Central Division. Start making October plan. It's April, but start thinking about October, Sox fans. Start planning on what are you going to do? Where are you going to be? Where are they going to be? Who are they going to be playing? How's everything going to line up? And they don't even make the postseason. So it really, even when you line everything up right and on paper seem to have everything ready to go, things can still blow up in your face. Things can still not go the way you expect them, the way you want, the way that it would seem that they should. We'll get more into the White Sox a little bit when the baseball season officially wraps. We'll dive in a little bit more and try to figure out some ways to fix this team, not just in the managerial, but on the roster itself. We'll look at some things there with the White Sox, but for right now, very disappointing. Very disappointing. I mean, even if they sweep the Guardians last week, they still need some help. But a week ago today, the Guardians' magic number to clinch the American League Central, meaning the number of games that they needed to win and the Sox needed to lose, was 12. A week later, it's 0. They made up 12 games in just under a week. Ugh. That's disappointing. All right, we're going to take one more break, and then when we come back, we've got a team that is definitely not disappointing. We've got a college football team that is exceeding expectations. We will be talking about Brett Bielma's University of Illinois football team. We will be right back. This is Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Right back after this.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA to the grand slams of the MLB to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo sports with a twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
college football? And do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly, everybody. Adam Karnick, your host here for one last segment before we get out of here. So, of course, didn't want to end on the downer that is the White Sox. So instead, we're going to finish the show on an upper. The University of Illinois football team, they are 3-1 to start the season. This is, for Illinois, its best start since 2015 to its football program, and they just put a shellacking out last week. They played last Thursday at home against Chattanooga and won 31-0 in order to get out to that start. Now, their one loss so far, it is in conference. They did drop a game to Indiana back in the second week, so they are 0-1 in Big Ten play, and they are now completely done with the non-conference portion of their schedule. But take a look at some of the numbers and things going on for the team right now. Starting quarterback Tommy DeVito transferred over from Syracuse before the season, and he is having himself quite the start to the year. In 4 games, DeVito is completing just under 69% of his passes, 68.8%, basically 7.5 yards per attempt, 951 yards already, 9 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions. He's had at least 2 touchdown passes in every single game this season for Illinois. And then starting running back Chase Brown is also having a terrific start, already 604 yards rushing on the year, including 3 touchdown runs already to start the year. The defense is off to a good start as well. They've already got, as a team, they've already got 6 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries, so 9 takeaways through their first 4 games as well. So a strong start for Illinois. Now, again, all 3 of their wins to this point have been non-conference. They beat Wyoming in week 1. They beat Virginia in week 3 and then Chattanooga last week. So obviously quality of opponent is, they're not scoring a ton of style points for their degree of, they're not getting degree of difficulty points here for some of these victories. And obviously they're going to be taking a big step up this coming week when they travel to Madison and take on the Badgers in Wisconsin at 11 o'clock Saturday morning in Wisconsin. That's going to be a good test for Illinois to see where they're at. Wisconsin's down a little bit. They're just 2-2 to start the year, but they've got Wisconsin, then home against Iowa and home against Minnesota as their next 3 games. But if they can take 2 of those, they can make some noise for themselves. They can be upsetters in the Big Ten a little bit, maybe even looking at something there in the Big Ten West, maybe even making some noise to try to challenge Minnesota and Iowa for the top of the division there. Something certainly to be keeping an eye on with Illinois throughout the season. So Bielma's doing some good things down there in Champaign. Got some things working. The team is starting to look a little more respectable. We will see how that goes the rest of the way, but certainly off to a good start. Much better than Northwestern right now. Unfortunately, Northwestern, they are ahead of Illinois in the Big Ten West because their one victory this season happens to be a conference victory. But not good things for Northwestern, losing to Miami of Ohio this weekend, and that's after losing to Southern Illinois and Duke before that. Ugh. Not good things happening for Northwestern. So, but Illinois having a good start to its football season. So well done, Coach Bielma. Hopefully they're able to keep things moving a little bit. Well, that is it for this show, and that is it for IE Sports Radio tonight. Taryn Rodriguez is not doing Set Point tonight. He is celebrating his 3-year anniversary of doing Set Point, and so it's this coming Friday because that's actually the day that the date that the show launched, September 30th. So Taryn will be doing a special edition of Set Point on Friday at 2 o'clock Central Time on Friday. So we are it tonight. I want to say thank you to Taryn and for Davidson for hanging out with us in the chat room tonight. Davidson Crooks, thank you for hopping in there a little bit during the second segment. Definitely going to be racking your brain with some Bulls questions as the Bulls season is very soon to tip off. Bulls without Lonzo Ball probably till end of October, beginning of November. We're not sure. So we will be starting to get into some Bulls talk here in some future episodes as well. Be sure to check both those guys out. Taryn, of course, with Set Point and SoCal Supreme, and then Davidson with Fast Break on Sunday evening. So be sure to check both of those guys out. Thank you, gentlemen, for hanging out with me in the chat room. Thank you to Larry B. and all the hard work he does here at the station, keeping everything going, keeping everything moving smoothly. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlos Gate, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Be sure to check us out at our website, iesportsradio.com. You'll find our Patreon link there. Finally, thank you for coming and listening every week. It means a lot. I really do appreciate it. Next week, of course, we'll be breaking down the Bears-Giants game. We'll be starting to dive into some Bulls a little bit, and we'll see what else comes our way. Until then, this is Adam Karnick for IE Sports Radio. Have a great week, everybody.